Hello and welcome to our third conversation on GPCPCS. Here we're going to explore together how we guard the gains of what we've achieved so far. Moving from implementing the service into embedding it and making part of normal kind of patient care is what we're interested in this video. So again, first of all, let's hear from our great practice colleague, Robin, on how they've guarded the gains in their own PCN and practice to date. Thanks, Robin.
Thanks, Mike. So to start off with, I think it's important to keep things like GPCS in everybody's minds, and that the leadership teams in practices need to make sure, this is becoming business as usual. So that will include the pharmacy teams within primary care networks, the operational teams, the front of house management teams need to make sure that any new staff that they're having are trained on CPCS and that it's part of the normal day-to-day workload. How we've been doing it myself in my practices, I've got a little report that will check how many recoded referrals we sent. I can just run once a week and sort of say, last week we sent less referrals than the week before. We just need to make sure we keep the momentum going. This is business as usual. I think it's important to highlight to everybody within the PCN really that this is saving clinician time. So this could be saving a paramedic's time, a pharmacist's time, a nurse's time, a GP's time. And we haven't got into the kind of the facts and the figures about it in depth, but that could be a 10-minute consultation, and if we're referring 100 a week, that's a lot of clinician time that we're saving. So I think the other thing that is really important is about having a good referral process back into the PCN. So where the pharmacies are escalating the very small percentage that need escalating, and actually one of my GP colleagues yesterday made a comment that it's not very many via the pharmacy team, and we're dealing with them either ourselves or escalating it to other members of the team. I think that the way that this service is now formalised, it really helps strengthen that kind of relationship between community pharmacy and gives a much more appropriate handover of rather than I saw a pharmacist and they told me to come see you, and I'm like, why sometimes? I think the other thing that I was really happy about was yesterday I walked into our morning coffee break where the GPs in there were already having a conversation about CPCS referrals and how they can escalate them and pass them back to the team. We've got a sifting process in our practice where we're hoping that the front of house team sift out some of or the majority of the CPCS referrals at the first point of contact, but actually the sifting GPs can push that back as well where they feel it's appropriate. So I was really proud that they were engaged with that and having a good conversation about it. And it's just about normalising that and making it part of the day-to-day for all of us within the PCN. The other really important piece for me is that by having a more formalised process, it's developing learning opportunities for the PCN pharmacy team and the community pharmacies on our footprint. So if there are some patterns in the referrals that are coming back, or we're getting more from certain pharmacies, we can pick up the phone and have a conversation and say, how can we help you with that? Can we do some joint education? And the local pharmacy committee have been really supportive with that as well.
Mate, that's a great set of shares. Nick, I saw you nodding there. I can imagine that you've got a similar vibe going on down in your practice in pharmacy too.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. And again, it's really, again, for the third video as well, it's really interesting that the implementation and the challenges and solutions seem similar across both general practice and the community pharmacy. So the way in which we're making sure that this is a business as usual activity and we guard against those gains being lost is that we make sure practical things like IT is checked regularly. In Cornwall, we use Farm Refer, so we're checking farm outcomes, or whether that be NHS Mail, just making sure that everybody knows which referral process we're using from which practice. And what we've also done, as Robin has said about learning opportunities, what we've done is, when we're doing a certain number, there will be some that go wrong. And we've just had a really open mindset with our general practice colleagues about the ones that have gone a little bit pear-shaped, and whether that's a learning for us or for the GP team, we've been able to, because we've got now a more formalised process of communication and a more open style of communication, which built on the good relationships we already had. Those learning opportunities have actually been really, really good. And the teams have felt really empowered by those outcomes and connecting with other clinicians within the GP practice, whether that's other practice pharmacists or other GPs. And that's been a sort of a benefit that we weren't expecting. When something goes wrong, you wouldn't expect there to be necessarily a benefit, but that benefit of connection with the wider team is really important. I do think, though, those instances are rare. And I think what we found is that, again, when we said in the first video that this is something that pharmacists do, we do this all the time. It's just a formalization of it. It's just the fact now that we do have this as a business as usual activity, consultations and speaking to patients are things that we're really good at. And we've been really pleased with the number of people that we've actually been able to deal with and treat, and feel like we're helping take some of that pressure off our general practice and primary care colleagues, which has meant that the team's really supportive of this as a business as usual activity, and don't want to see the numbers drop off. So it's for us to maintain that consistent quality delivery of service, which we're really proud of.
So in terms of guarding the gains then, I mean, we were with a PCN large practice the other week, and we were looking at what they were actually getting from it in terms of the quantity and, of course, the quality of the outcomes for the patients. And the look of delight on their faces about what they'd achieved was absolutely wonderful. So let's make a point of celebrating those successes and also facing into those things that occasionally, as a wrinkle here and there, go wrong, and deal with them together. This is not easy. This is major channel shift change here. But we can really achieve it. Certainly we are beginning to achieve it in Somerset if we work together at that level. Robin, Nick, again, thank you for what you've shared from a kind of your perspective point of view on guarding the gains. This is one of the 3 videos that hopefully you will have now seen. Please do, if you want to, connect with us, because we'd love to have the conversations with you. And again, our contact details to do that are at the end of this session. Nick, Robin, and those that have watched, thank you ever so much. Goodbye.